Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 8. This is the last training tape for the 2022-2023 season. Appreciate all of you who've taken the time to take a look at the clips and have a discussion with your crews during pregame, during games, about how we can handle our plays and situations that come up a little better. And I think we've done that. We've had a great year, and proud of all of you and your great work. Again, when we look at these clips, not picking on any one official or crew, team, or player, just trying to learn from these plays as we move throughout the season and into the postseason this year. So with that, we'll take a look at some plays. Okay, let's talk mechanics and positioning on this one and a little bit of rules as well. So first, you'll see that the ball settles beneath the free throw line on the table side, which is where the center is, which means leads, we need to be closing down towards the lane line on that side, which we do, but then we need to initiate a rotation once that ball settles beneath the free throw line there. I think we initiate this rotation maybe a little bit later than we'd like, and it puts us in the middle of the paint really as this action is taking place. So probably want to try to initiate that rotation a little bit sooner. But let's take a look at our position adjust by the center. I like that we do that. Take a step or two up to see space. That's good. But once we do that adjustment, let's just stop and take this dribble drive from there. Don't keep moving towards the division line. Let's just take one or two steps, stop, and watch this play. As it goes away from us, we're going to be taking this play all the way to the basket, except when it involves potential contact or contact with a secondary defender. And you'll notice here that we have a secondary defender come over to assist on defense on this play, and there's pretty significant contact with this secondary defender. So we have to establish, remember, the lead is primary for this. We need to establish, did the defensive player establish initial legal guarding position outside the restricted area, inside the restricted area? If they do and maintain it legally, then a no call is fine in this particular case. But if you think this is a regular blocking foul, call it as such. Don't use the restricted arc mechanics of blocking and pointing at the restricted area. But for sure, at a minimum, this is a restricted area blocking foul. It's a blocking foul of some kind, but you'll notice that the secondary defender comes over, is grounded in the restricted area, and contact is made with the shooter in the restricted area. So this is, at minimum, a restricted area blocking foul, and it certainly appears that she may not even have established legal guarding position prior to the shooter leaving the ground, which means it would be just a regular blocking foul and not a restricted area blocking foul. But in either case, it's definitely a blocking foul, definitely one that we would want to get. But I think our lateness in initiating the rotation kind of put us in a bad spot to take this play. And in many ways, I would almost encourage that we just stop the rotation and take this play from wherever we're at versus continuing to move as this play is developing, and gives you just a bad vantage point of whether that secondary defender established legal guarding position, whether it was inside the arc or not. I think we should just stop and take this play from where we're at. And then if we go the other way like we do, we can adjust. So position adjust, the C space, get stationary if we can, initiate the rotation a little quicker from lead, and then we need to figure out, establish, did that secondary defender establish legal guarding position? If so, where? Are they grounded in the restricted area? If so, we should have a restricted area blocking foul on this play. Okay, mechanics, positioning, and judgment a little bit on this one. So we're going to have a layup that goes in, and we have pressure in the backcourt. Remember, if we have 4 or more players in the backcourt, we need the center to stay back and help, which we do a really nice job of here. And then we get down in transition and cover the 3-point attempt. So first, from a mechanics standpoint, coverage standpoint, The center is going to have primary on that drive to the basket. We no call it, okay, fine, but make sure that we know who has responsibility for that, because you see here it goes down that side of the paint. Remember, if it's not involving a secondary defender, we're going to draw a line right down the middle of the paint, and the center is going to take action to their side of the paint. So that's the center's responsibility to officiate this particular dribble drive matchup. Okay. Now, certainly could argue that we have some contact with the shooter, give her continuation, count the basket, give her a free throw. We no call it. Okay, we're going back the other direction. And then notice that the center gets beneath this matchup with the shooter so that he can see space, see her up and down. This is really good position adjust by the center in this case. So the first thing I'll point out is make sure as a crew we're on top of our primary coverage areas, who's responsible for what. In this particular case, draw a line right down the middle of the paint, and anything to that side the center should take, which is what we have here. And then we do a nice job of staying back to help, and then hustling down to get in good position to see this 3-point shot attempt. So very well done by the center on this from a coverage, position adjust, help, mechanic perspective. Do a really nice job here. Certainly could argue there was a foul on that initial drive, but overall, really like our mechanics and positioning. All right, on this one, we're going to have a dribble drive to the basket resulting in a foul. So let's first talk about our positioning relative to the lead. So when we're the lead, remember we want to mirror the basketball, and then we want to close down. We're stationary at the time of this contact, which is really good. That's what we want, but we should be mirroring the basketball as the lead. Come out a little bit wider here. Then we can close down, and then we'd be in really good position to see this play. And we end up in the right position, but we should be mirroring the basketball a little bit more. But really like that we're stationary at the time of this action. But you'll notice that number 30 does hip check the shooter. This is not legal guarding position. She does not maintain that legally. She goes into the shooter. This is a secondary defender, remember. So secondary defender contact in the paint is the responsibility of the lead, and the lead does get the call here. So very nicely done by the lead in that regard. So a couple things. Remember, if it's just a regular blocking foul, one that's going to be a blocking foul anywhere on the court, we're not going to utilize restricted area mechanics. And we do a nice job here of getting the foul on number 30. That's the proper ruling. And give her 2 shots, and we do that with our spot mechanics. So that's very well done as well. And we're communicating the number of free throws to our crewmates so that we can move forward correctly. Now, take a look at this other secondary defender. If number 30 doesn't make contact with this shooter, this other secondary defender never establishes legal guarding position outside the restricted area, and there's contact made with her by the shooter. So if we don't have contact by number 30, this would be a restricted area blocking foul. And remember that our mechanics are signal the foul, fists in the air, signal block, and then point at the restricted area if we have a restricted area blocking foul. In this case, the foul's on number 30, not a restricted area play. We're just going to call a regular blocking foul here. If we were to call a offensive foul here, we would need help to come in and make sure that we have the proper player to call the foul on, typically from the center. In this case, we call the proper foul number 30, who gets the shooter on the way up. But just wanted to point out that if we don't have contact by number 30, we would have a restricted area blocking foul by the other secondary defender on this play. So lots going on for the lead. Mirror the basketball mechanically, position-wise, and then keep in mind the legal guarding position, restricted area requirements and rules. But we do a really nice job on this play. A rules and mechanics piece on this one. We're going to have a loose ball, and ultimately both players get a hold of it, and we have a held ball in the free throw half circle there. Just a reminder that when we have fouls and violations in that area, the ensuing throw in is going to be on the end line, which we do here. So, really well done by the crew of doing this correctly. That we have a held ball in the free throw half circle and we move the ensuing throw in to the end line. So, very well done on that mechanically. This initial dribble drive, it does sure look like we have a blocking foul. Just remember that this is the responsibility of the center based on where this dribble drive takes place. Um, you'll see that here on the replay that this is the center's responsibility. Now, the center does do a nice job of taking a step down towards the end line to position adjust and see if we can pick up this action. We don't call it, okay, moving forward, but just know that that is the center's responsibility. But ultimately, just wanted to point out on this that if we have a violation or foul in the free throw half circle or anywhere beneath a point from the free throw line, corners, the elbow down to the edge of the 3-point line on either side of the end line. Anything beneath that, we're going to have the ensuing throw in. If we're having a throw in, not shooting free throws, is going to be on the end line, which is what the crew does here. So, very well done, mechanics, judgment, and communication wise. This one's a really good example of using patience, good judgment, and how our positioning and our mechanics allows us to make really solid judgment calls. So you'll see here that we have a steal, we go back in transition, and we're going to have a block shot at the other end. So like our hustle, remember leads, if we can get to that spot on the end line where it's about a step or two off the lane line to take this play, that's ideal. We get pretty close and we're stationary at the time of this play. So this is excellent hustle, excellent positioning to take this play, do a really nice job of that, and then finally just the mechanics, the patience is the best part. We don't assume that this is going to be a foul just because we're chasing from behind or there's some kind of windup. This player makes a really good defensive play, gets back, gets the block shot, and then ultimately the ball does go off of number 12's arm, which we make the correct call. And that's all because we are in excellent position to take this play. We're as stationary as we can be. We don't anticipate that a foul is going to take place, and we ultimately make an excellent judgment. So this is awesome mechanics, awesome positioning, and a really excellent no call, and ultimately the proper awarding of a throw in to the defense as the ball does go off of number 12's arm. So excellent hustle, positioning, mechanics, patience, and judgment. Way to go. This play is pretty similar to one we already had, where we're in the middle of a rotation as we have a play in the paint involving a secondary defender. So we close down as the lead, which is good. When this dribble drive starts, we probably don't want to continue with the rotation. Just stop. If you're not quite to the middle of the paint, just go back to where you came from. Take the play stationary if you can. So that's the first thing. Just mechanically, we close down, which is great. But once they start this dribble drive to the basket, let's not finish the rotation because we're going to be moving at the time of this and we're not going to be in the best position anyways. So let's just stop. Remember, if it's a secondary defender that's involved, the lead's going to have primary, which is what happens here. And all other players will be the responsibility of the center. So the center who becomes the neutral does a really nice job of closing down towards the end line and then being stationary at the time of this play to assist. But let's take a look at this action at the basket involving the secondary defender. The secondary defender is grounded in the restricted area. Remember, if we're on or over that restricted area, that is considered in. If we jump and rise vertically, no problem. But in this case, we are grounded on or over the restricted area, and the offensive player makes significant contact with this player. This should be a restricted area blocking foul called by the lead. So remember, fists in the air, blocking signal, and point at the restricted area to indicate that the only reason this is a foul is because contact was made with a grounded secondary defender in the restricted area. So we would want a restricted area blocking foul on this play. Okay, on this one we have a kind of a prolonged play in the front court. We're in good initial position, lead in a good spot. We should probably close down another step towards the lane line, and that probably would have assisted us in our positioning relative to taking this play at the basket, which I believe is a foul properly called. Remember, we've talked about this before. When a defender rises vertically in their space, verticality, no problem. But if they jump from position A to position B and go through the opponent, that is a foul, and that's what happens here, and we properly call this as a shooting foul number 34. She does not jump vertically in her space. She jumps into the shooter, A to B. This is a foul that we would want called, and we do get it. Now, mechanically, remember, primary, if we have contact involved with a secondary defender in the paint, we're going to give the lead the first crack at that. The lead does get this play. Again, if we close down one more step towards the lane line, I think we'd be in a really good spot to take this. The center has a whistle on this, which is totally understandable, and understand that. More of a dual coverage area type play, and good with that as center. But what I really like here as the center is we don't make any kind of preliminary signal at all. All we do is put our fist in the air, which indicates we have a foul. So if for some reason the lead were to ship this as an offensive foul, we haven't committed ourselves one way or the other as the center, and we can get out of a blarge if that were to occur. So we do a nice job of being patient, just having a fist in the air. Don't make any preliminary signal, let the lead take this. But this is an A to B foul. This is contact with a secondary defender in the paint, not a restricted area play, but involving a secondary defender in the paint. Primary responsibility to the lead who gets the foul, and that's really well done. Just maybe close down one more step to give us a better angle and vantage point on this play. Okay, opposite of what we had on previous plays, we're now going to have a player control foul in this particular case. So right down in transition goes right at the basket. So this is going to be the lead's primary coverage area and responsibility. He closes down at the time of the drive to be in good position to see this action. And number 12 establishes legal guarding position and is run over by the offensive player and is properly called for a player control foul in my estimation. So let's take a look at the defender that takes this charge. It's really interesting. She establishes legal guarding position, and then she moves her left leg towards the shooter, which makes it look like she is sliding into the offensive player, but all she does is move her left leg, and her right leg maintains that spot. So she really never moves her body. So it kind of looks are deceiving. So if she was called for a block here, I would understand that. But I think player control foul is the proper call. And that's what we make. And we use the proper mechanics to indicate an offensive foul, player control foul in this case. Remember, in Minnesota, we're using the punch, probably a fist in the air and then a punch, but that's being really picky. Ultimately, I believe this is a defender that establishes legal guarding position, gets run over through the torso, and is properly called for a player control foul in this case by the lead. So really well done mechanically getting into good position, and then use good judgment utilizing the rules of legal guarding position, displacement, player control foul, and so forth. Do a nice job here. This last play is an awesome example to finish our training tape series with. Just really good positioning, really good hustle and judgment and philosophy. So we allow the kids to make good athletic defensive plays. We don't penalize them for legal defense. We have a steal here. We hustle to get in really good position to take this right at the intersection of the lane line and the end line. And we're in perfect position to see that this is a clean block shot, an awesome play by this defender to get back and block this shot. So we allow her to be athletic, make a legal defensive play. We don't anticipate the foul. We can anticipate the type of play that there might be a foul potentially, but we're not anticipating a foul, putting air in the whistle where we don't need it. This is an awesome block shot, and we allow this player to make a great defensive play. So this is just awesome hustle, awesome positioning, even better judgment to allow this to play out as a block shot. This is awesome. This is exactly what we want to see, and all the officials are in great position to assist on this play. But ultimately we let the lead have this one, who doesn't anticipate a foul but anticipates the play and gets in really good position to view this. So awesome job by the crew on this play, and on several of these plays, and all of our tapes, but ultimately a really good play to finish our training tapes with. Great mechanics, great hustle, positioning, and judgment. Okay, that will do it for the 2022-2023 basketball officiating training tape series. Again, appreciate all of you and your willingness to take a look at these clips and just have a discussion as officials, as crews, about how do we handle situations, how do we handle plays, what do we do mechanically, coverage, communication, philosophy, just doing what's best for the game that particular night or that particular week, or however it works for you. Just appreciate the willingness of officials to have that dialogue, to get better, to provide kids with a really good experience. And I believe that you all have done that. So um, you have my great appreciation and admiration for the work that you do. Keep up the great work. Really proud of all of you. Um, have a great time, a great finish to the rest of the season. Um, Good luck in the postseason if you're working there, and have a great off season. Stay healthy and stay safe. And we will see you next year.